All right, welcome back. I haven't published in a while, and I'm trying to publish more. I've actually got another podcast and a blog that I'm writing, and so I bounce around between different ones. So okay, so today I have a unique topic. I actually got an email from a friend yesterday, and I've just been thinking about it so much that I actually want to kind of go through what we talked about with you guys here. So I've got a great friend. His name's Mason, and he's just incredibly methodical about life, and he's just kind of been he's just a different kind of person. Like he just thinks a whole different level as far as being highly intentional about what he does and highly intentional about what he thinks and highly intentional about who he's with. I sent this text. He's like, "Hey, like, sorry, this has come out of nowhere, but I just wanted to like ask you some questions." And he's like, "You're someone that I know that you're someone that's kind of in my circle, and I kind of want to ask you like maybe essentially a survey question if I can ask." And so he had 3 questions, and each of them had 5 elements to it. And I want to go through what he asked and how I answered and some of my thoughts about that. So number 1 is he asked, "What are 5 subjects, talents, skills that give you joy?" Meaning, if you had unlimited time to pursue them, what 5 subjects, talents, skills would give your life fulfillment? Here's what I answered, and I just have, and I have to do a shout out here before we kind of go into this. Actually, this is the example of somebody who will probably be highly successful in their life, in my opinion. And successful doesn't mean that they'll be like the richest person you know, but I think that they'll be highly fulfilled. People that ask these kind of questions often enjoy a much richer fulfillment than almost anybody else. It's asking questions that really, we're surrounded by geniuses. Everybody knows a genius. And probably you don't know anyone who's not a genius in some way. And being able to ask questions and interview people and hear their thoughts, even though I'm not any kind of a guru, I don't know. I'm young. I'm still figuring it out. I found some things that work for me. But the point is that the people that ask questions get answers. When you get answers, you are able to build your life around more sound principles. The more questions you ask, the more you can start to filter out the chaff and keep only the wheat, if that makes sense. So going back, 5 subjects, talents, skills that give you the most joy. So this is what I told him. I said, number 1, having a deep connection with God, nature, and people around me. Number 2, serving people who have no way of ever giving back to me. Number 3 is teaching people about what I'm learning. Number 4 is studying tons of books about personal development, marriage, dating, performance psychology, business, biohacking, all of that. Maybe I should switch those 2 around. I like to study like crazy, and whenever I study, I get so excited about these things that I'm studying and these ideas that I have. I just have to share them with people. And those 2 separate elements honestly give me some of the most joy that I experience. I love learning and applying things in my life, and I love seeing other people also learn and apply things. And I get so excited because especially some of my friends that are super intentional, I'll tell them something like, "Oh, that's so cool. I want to try it as well." And they'll try it. Or like, I'm like, "Hey, you have to read this book." They're like, "Awesome." And they read it in like 3 days. That's the kind of people that I try to surround myself with. And I've been so blessed and so fortunate. I can't even tell you that I've got these amazing friends in my life who we share information constantly. They study something, they tell me, and I'm like, "Oh, that's amazing. I'm going to try applying that." And I'll tell them, "Oh, yeah, I was reading this book or listening to this podcast or I was watching this TED Talk or whatever it was." And they're like, "Oh, that's so cool." We talk about it sometimes for hours. And then we kind of, it's funny because we don't just talk about it. We try really hard to apply it. We kind of try to shape our life around these new truths that we're finding and these new ideas. And going back though, number 5, trying to liberate the minds of others around me to be free and pursue their greatest desires. So this one to me is kind of a special one. This is like really what I consider my core mission in life, is to, my main mission is to be the best Brunson that I can be. That is what I consider my most important task, really above anything else. But I think what's going to be my mission as far as my goal on how I'm going to give back to the world is I want to convince people that they are worth more than they realize. I want to convince people that they can truly live a rich and fulfilling life, even though we're all on a journey. It's not like I'm pretending like I've made the top of the summit and I'm like, "Oh yeah, you can guys get up here." No, I'm along the journey, but I have belief that people are capable of far more than they realize. And I love people in my life that tell me the same thing. I have no idea what I'm capable of. But sometimes I have a friend that says, hey, Brunson, like you've got a lot going for you. Keep going, like way to go. Keep working hard, keep digging deep. And that to me is very meaningful because I, like everybody else out there, forget constantly that we are truly remarkable beings. So that's kind of what I consider my main thing is helping people just really dig deep and find their joy in life. Question number 2 that he asked me was, what character traits do you most look up to? And this is the list that I wrote. Number 1 is meekness. Meekness to me is the ability is to have massive capacity and to not use it. Someone once told me that like it's kind of like having a sword, but it's kind of like keeping it sheathed. And I would say that meekness is, I look at people that are meek and I see, for example, a very strong man who has massive capacity to do all kinds of different things. He could win a fight, for example, maybe like a little scuffle breaks out and he could win the fight, but he doesn't need to prove anything to anybody. He doesn't need to show off how strong he is or how capable he is. I see this is the classic insecurity, is that when we're good at something, we want everyone else to know that we're good at something. Meekness is the ability to know you're good at something and not have to show anybody or prove it to anybody. You just are comfortable just being you. Number 2 is a deep and fearless integrity. This to me means you are someone who is honest not just with your words, but also with your intentions. We often look at honesty as like, oh, I didn't lie to him, but I misled him. And that's okay, because the words that I said weren't actually lie. I mean, integrity is actually saying like, no, my intentions are honest. And I think integrity also is telling people like, hey, listen, like I disagree with you, or I agree with you, or it doesn't mean you have to be rude or condescending, but I think it means that you don't pretend things with people, or you don't lead them to believe that you're one way or another. That doesn't mean you should go off and just like run your mouth all the time. It's not what I'm saying, but it's a fearlessness, really. It's a deep courage about being quite true with your word and your intentions. Number 3 is unconditional love. This to me is when I respect the ability that others have, and I have people in my life that are like this. When you're around them, you feel no need to prove yourself. You feel no need. It's almost like a naturally occurring meekness that you don't feel like you have to show off. You don't feel like you have to like prove yourself to them because you know they already love you. It's so funny because I think there's a big shift happening, but we almost look at love as like this almost emasculine thing that like we all crave love, and like, oh, true men don't crave love. Yes, like we are all deeply craving love, and we're all deeply craving connection. And when you give somebody unconditional love, what you're saying is, I love you just for you. I don't love you because you're funny. I don't love you because you're easy to be with. I don't love you because of any other reason than you're you. What this does to people is it makes them, it fills an emotional bucket, essentially. And when that bucket is filled, you're going to see who they truly are, actually. That's the amazing irony about unconditional love, is that when you truly love somebody just as they are, you will see more of what they are on a very real and deep level. The most annoying people that you've ever met in your life are ones who are completely just tattered with emotional baggage about trying to be what everyone else wants them to be. You often think, oh, that person's just being maybe a little bit too much of who they are. That's actually not true. I think annoying people are, generally speaking, not being true to themselves. I think when someone is truly, completely honest with themselves and they found themselves and they love themselves, they're often the most pleasant, easy people to be around. And you can help create that in somebody by loving them. And how that looks is manifested in so many different ways, and it would take me a long time to probably even go into it, but essentially it's something that you have to have yourself first, is when you love yourself, which is born by being honest with yourself. You'll develop this deep love for yourself, and when you love yourself, you don't have to prove anything to them. You can just love them and say, hey, you know what? I love you as you are, and you don't have to even say that, but it's not something you can fake either. Unconditional love is it has to be genuine. People will sense if you're just trying to pretend things. But your words, your actions, your energy, everything will say, hey, you don't need to prove anything to me. You're good enough as you are. I think it has incredible power. Number 4 is honor, which I consider as the ability to stand firmly behind what you believe, no matter how much the world kind of tears itself apart around you. Right now, for example, there's massive shame associated with certain cultural elements. In my opinion, and this is something that kind of going into what I believe in masculinity, firmly believe in masculinity. There is a lot of pressure against men being masculine right now. More, and I don't know if it's plateauing yet or where it's at, but I think it's getting stronger. That there is a very strong push against don't be masculine because men are oppressive and men are this or that. And I disagree with all those things. I don't think that being a man, it means you're oppressive, but being strong and powerful and tough and all those different things that are maybe kind of frowned upon, that to me matters. And I stand behind that. I don't care if anyone else disagrees. I don't care if it makes people feel uncomfortable that I like to be a man and I'm proud to be a man. For me, it's what I believe, and I stand behind that. I believe that all these different things I've talked about, I don't care if people say love is weak. To me, I believe in it. And my personal honor, and that's point 4 that here is my personal honor is I stand behind that even when it's unpopular. Honor to me also means defending a friend when it's completely unpopular to do so. And this, I can share an example of someone who did this in my life. There was somebody I knew who was kind of trash talking me, and this to me was such a classic example. And he was with a group of people that just didn't like me, from what I understand, and he was kind of running his mouth a little bit on that. And one of my friends stepped up and said, "Hey, if you're going to say that kind of stuff, you have to do it not around me because I know him and here's been my experience with him, and I just won't stand for it." And to me, it was like one of the most deeply touching things that's ever happened, because people ever came back and said, "Wow, your friends, they stand behind you." And I said, "Really?" They're like, "Yeah, they're like, your friends are very loyal," because someone started trash talking you, and it wasn't just one friend; it was several that were like you better knock it off. And to me, I'm not trying to be braggadocious in any way. It was so touching to me. And I realized, and that's where it was born for me. I was like, okay, you know what? I will be honorable, and I will defend my friend's honor as well, no matter, even if it's unpopular. If everyone else around me says, "Oh yeah, he's this or he's that," I'm like, hey, you know what? I know him, and I'm going to stand behind him. So, number 5 is proactivity. This is the 5th thing that I think is what the most powerful character trait that I look up to. Is proactivity. Proactivity is being highly intentional and understanding that you are liberated to choose your life. I believe that we all hold the pen that writes the epic of our life. And I'll say that again. So we all hold the pen that writes the epic of our life. We are not characters in someone else's story just being played. We are the author. We get to choose who we are, and we get to be highly intentional about what we believe. Proactivity is to understand that in between stimulus and response, stimulus meaning what happens to you, response meaning how you act because of that. In between those two things, there is a pause and a space, according to Dr. Viktor Frankl, where you get to choose for yourself how you are going to respond. It is the ultimate power. No other animal has this. No other creature on earth has this, just humans. That we get to choose how things affect us. Now, maybe that sounds fantastic to you, or maybe that sounds delusional. I don't know. But I can tell you that I am completely convinced of this power that we have. We get to choose. Now, you might say, "Oh, but my parents screwed me up. You don't understand. They were so condescending. They were this. I was emotionally abused. I was physically abused. I was sexually abused." I can tell you right now, those are real and painful things, and I get that. But you're human, and that means that you get to choose your way out of those chains. You might say that's impossible. I'm here to tell you that it's not. Everybody has the power to choose, to think different thoughts, to work through it. Is it going to be easy? I'm not saying it's easy. Proactivity is not about easy. It's about capacity. You have the power, no matter what's going wrong in your life, to change it. No matter what. You might say, "Oh, but it's deeper than that. It's emotional. It's psychological. It's this, it's that." I'm here to tell you, if there's anything wrong in your life, you have the power to choose a different course. Now, people might say, "Oh, well, you don't understand. I lost my legs in this crazy accident." I'm not saying you have the power to choose to grow your legs back. I'm saying you have the power to make your life meaningful with or without legs. Now, moving on to his next question. So the third question my friend asked me was, what do you think are the elements that are necessary to your future? And I hope that I answered him correctly. Actually, I haven't heard back from him, so I don't know what is. I hope that I answered this question correctly. But the way that I answered this question was that what are like the things in your life that you consider very important, that are going to be an important part of your future, in your opinion? And number one for me is a wife and children. That is what I look forward to almost more than anything else on earth is having a family. And almost everything I do, even now, is trying to build that lifestyle early. I work hard and I try to build financial freedom, not just for my own personal well-being, but I really want to provide my wife and children with massive emotional security. I don't want my family to ever fear finances. I don't want them to ever fear a lack of integrity on my part. I want them to be able to trust me implicitly as their father and as their husband. And that's something that I work very hard to develop right now in my life, is building the right habits and character and lifestyle to take good care of my family. Number two is I need in my future a deep fulfillment in whatever I spend the majority of my day doing. And that maybe sounds totally unrealistic to people. I don't care if it's unrealistic. I'm going to make it happen. One way or another, I'm going to push to make this a reality for me. I want to truly love what I do. Doesn't mean it's going to always be easy. I don't care if it's hard or not. I just want to really feel connected with what I'm doing and what I spend the majority of my day doing. Right now, I feel very connected with what I spend the majority of my day doing, because a lot of what I do is I podcast, I share my thoughts, I share my feelings. I do marketing currently for nonprofit organizations, which I just love. And I love it. I really do. Number three is an important part of my future is being able to influence at least one person to be more true to themselves and find deeper fulfillment. Now, when I say this, what that means to me is that I believe in the power of one by one. I remember as a kid, I always thought it'd be so cool to be a Tony Robbins, to get up and speak to millions of people at once and all that. I would still love that if I don't think that I'm not a Tony Robbins, and I don't consider myself probably quite enough of a guru, or I don't think I have enough understanding to do that. But I always think there's at least one person out there that I can influence, and I can be their friend, and I can be a support system for them, and I can help them be their best selves. And for me, that's just I always need that one person in my life who I feel like I'm able to influence positively, and that's a huge part of what brings me deep fulfillment. Number four is I want to someday overcome every irrational fear that I have. Rational fears are necessary to keep us protected. I have a rational fear of essentially that prevents me from harming myself or doing something that would kill me. Irrational fears to me are, I have this massive fear of dogs. They scare me to death. Every time I walk past a dog, I feel like not every time. It's getting better. I've been working on it. But I've had many times that a dog will lunge at me like it's like tied to a chain, and it's like my heart about rips out of its chest. I have got some, I don't know if it's something from my childhood, but for some reason I'm really afraid of dogs. I've been working on my fear of the ocean. I've been very afraid of water. And so I started scuba diving. I've started doing like all these different things and cliff jumping and everything I can to try to overcome that fear of water. And so far that's been my goal. So that's one of my goals, is to overcome all my irrational fears and to never let fear hold me back from doing what's right or what's necessary to bring my life fulfillment. And number five is, and this is probably the most important thing, is to love and to be loved on a deep level. That's it. So with that in mind, I'm so grateful for my friends in my life that inspire me and ask me these kind of questions, because it was awesome for me writing this. I'm like, well, okay, what really does matter? I have a mission statement. I do a lot of planning in this specter. I often ask myself what matters most to me, but it was cool being able to talk about it as in the sense of giving a friend advice, and it was very meaningful for me. So with that in mind, I encourage everyone. In fact, you may even want to ask yourself those same questions. Go and ask yourself the questions. What 5 subjects, talents, and skills give you the most joy? What 5 character traits do you look up to the most? And what are 5 elements that you consider to be an important part of your future? With all that in mind, I think that it really helps us create a more intentional life. I use the word intentional a lot, and that is also intentional. I really believe that, again, we have the power to control where we go, where we're headed, and we just get to choose. We get to choose like what matters to us. We get to choose where we're going. We get to choose the elements in our life that are going to show up, and it's all within our grasp. So if you want something, if you want deep fulfillment in life, you have to dig for it. I believe that, but it's worth the price you have to pay. I'm convinced of it. So all the best in your guys' journey. I know that everyone's in their own place. I just know that I'm rooting for you. I'm rooting for you, and I think that if you're struggling right now, you're closer than you think you are. And I wish you the best of luck. We'll see you next time.